We were talking about the general linear vector space, and with this space there is one very important notion connected, namely basis. The basis of a vector space is a set of vectors that satisfy two conditions. They are linearly independent, and any vector in the vector space can be written as a linear combination of the vectors from the basis. The property that they are linearly independent means we don't want too many vectors in the basis. And the property that any vector can be written as a linear combination of the vectors in the basis means we don't want too few vectors in the basis. There must be just enough of them. An example, if we have R3, then there are infinitely many bases, and one nice basis would be consisting of these three vectors, where E1 is the vector 1, 0, 0, E2 is the vector 0, 1, 0, and E3 is the vector 0, 0, 1. But you can multiply any one of them by any non-zero number, and you still get a perfect basis. Or you can replace these vectors with some linear combination of them, and if you have three vectors and they are linearly independent, then they indeed form another basis of R3. And the number of the vectors in the basis is a very important term, and this is called dimension of the vector space. Dimension of a point is 0, dimension of a line, that is R, is 1, dimension of R2, the plane, is 2, dimension of R3, our space, is 3. We can have even higher dimension. Dimension of Rn is n. Dimension of the set of all sequences is infinity. Dimension of the set of all functions, say continuous in some interval, is again infinity. Dimension of a set of all polynomials of order not more than 2 is 3. And in this set, the space of all the polynomials of order not more than 2, the one possible base might be these three polynomials. 1, x, x squared, because they are linearly independent, and any polynomial of order not more than 2 can be written as a linear combination of them. So, as we can imagine an infinite dimensional space in mathematics, no problem, how can we visualize, how can we imagine such an infinite dimensional space in our life? Consider color. Say, the paper may be red, or yellow, or brown, magenta, white. Color, physically speaking, can be described by some spectrum. You give a function, the intensity, as a function of the wavelength. The intensity is the spectrum in this way is some non-negative function. If you take the logarithm, you take some real function. And these functions defined on R+, can be added and multiplied by a scalar, so they again form a vector space. And this vector space of all the colors is an example of an infinite dimensional space. Not to be confused the dimension and the number of elements. Even in R3 we have infinitely many vectors, but the basis is finite. That means the dimension is finite. But in the case of colors, we have not just infinitely many colors, but we have infinite dimension of this space. That would be a difficult task for engineers that want to develop something like color television. But fortunately, in the retina, the back wall in your eye, there are cone cells that are sensible to color, and there are only 3 types of these cone cells. One of them are sensitive to red, the other to blue, and the other to green. And that means that a vector in this infinite dimensional space, color of some point, of some pixel, can be projected to this finite dimensional, namely 3-dimensional space. And if you record just the red, green, and blue intensity of light, and you store, transmit, and reproduce this, then you get an image that is quite realistic, at least for the human eye.